Well, good morning and welcome. Today is our conversation is about projections, the power of projections, and today is March the 26th. Thank you so much for being here. So happy to see so many lovely friends come back and learn more. So while we wait for more people to join us, I would love to hear how you guys are doing. Lorelei, how are you doing today? You'll have to unmute yourself. Lorelei, how are you doing? Can you hear me? All right. What about Doris? How are you doing, Doris?
Lina, I'm doing great today. Thank you.
So glad to hear that. Make sure everything is off that makes noises. Kat, how are you doing? Good to have you here.
Hi, Lina.
Hello there.
At least I can unmute myself.
I love that. That is wonderful.
I know.
Unmuting is good.
Yeah. So I'm doing good. I'm so grateful for my spiritual community and just being on I've been on everything.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And by the way, for any of you who have not been in all of these conversations, I am posting them all as quickly as I can on my YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube and you search Lina Orlando, you're going to be able to see all of these under videos. Click on that, and they're all in order, in the order that they gave them. So go down to the bottom and start there, where I begin with my what I feel the coronavirus is all about. I see it as an opportunity for us to really awaken. It's a part of our spiritual journey. And then these awakening or activating miracles conversations are all there in order. And today's will be there at some point by tonight. After I finish my afternoon of coaching clients, I'll have time to do that. But today I wanted to focus on what projections are all about, because we create our reality because we're projecting the reality that we believe is the reality that we should have. And if anybody has any comments or you want to say something, post it inside of the chat box, and I'll be able to see it. I'll look at the chat box and address that as much as possible. If you have comments that you want to share just about something that you gained from this that was like an aha, put it in the chat box so that we can all join in with you in knowing what are some of the ahas that you received. So something that I want to make sure that I share before we enter into this conversation about projections, and that is every single one of us, every one of us is a divine being. We chose to be on this planet to incarnate at this time. If you're here watching this presentation, at some level, you know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But what you may not be aware of, and when I say not aware of, you may know it in your head, but you're not operating from it in your heart, which is why it hasn't opened up for you yet, is that just because you become spiritual, that does not necessarily wake you up. Now, the spiritual path is a path into awakening, just as a love of nature is a path to awakening. But most people, in my experience, I know it because I've been there, spirituality can become a trap. And if you don't understand how to move beyond your spiritualized ego, because when you're receiving information and you're turning it into rituals, you're turning it into rights and wrongs, that information does not move into transformation. You have to move things towards transformation. And when I explain what projections are all about, I want to give you the steps for transforming what is information through the process of integration so that you can become somebody who is awake. So if that made sense to you, in the chat box, please let me know Or I can see some faces, not everybody has their camera on, but if you have your camera on, shake your head and tell me if that made sense. So give me a yes. So Doris is giving me a yes. So is Dale and David and Angela. Thank you so much for letting me have that feedback. And yes, I've got Jennifer is saying yes. Very cool. If you want to wake up, and nobody has to wake up, if you want to wake up, what waking up means is that you take 100% full responsibility for what you are thinking, because through the process that you get to where you want to wake up, it's because you understand that your thoughts create your reality. Now, for your thoughts to create the reality that you are thinking about, and all of us want happiness, all of us want to be abundant, all of us want great careers, opportunities to express ourselves, we want healthy relationships. At the head level, we know we want that. So you could be saying, well, I think about that all the time. Why do I not bring that about? And the reason we don't bring about what we think about when we're just spiritual, or let me be more specific, before we wake up, is because the portal for creation happens through the heart. So you have to think about it and send it through the heart into manifestation. And and the reason it has to go through your heart to manifest is because you have to extend it so that it becomes something that is for the greater good of all. When we are wishing and wanting to be richer, when we're wishing and wanting health, we're wishing and wanting a lover, it is operating, when you're not awake, it is operating from a level of, in your head, you want it, but it's for yourself alone. And when it's for yourself alone, it's because you're operating inside of an egoic bubble. And that is the thing that we are waking up to, is the realization that we are one. The realization that whatever you want for you, you must want it for the collective. If you don't want it for the collective, you are attached to it coming just for you. And if you don't get it, because oftentimes we don't get what we want when we're selfish. Now, a lot of people get what they want when they're selfish, but not because it comes to them, but because they do some aggressive things to get it for themselves. And you all understand what I'm talking about. The world today is beginning to break down because we have had a lot of selfish, greedy, egoic-based people who they brought about what they were thinking about. They wanted money, they wanted power, they wanted control. They have created that. And the rest of us who don't have those things, who maybe we're not participating at that level, are participating in another way. We have contributed to what they might be getting and controlling because we don't understand our power and we have given it away. So I want you to come into this presentation about projections with an open mind, because what I say, for some of you, and I recognize so many of you that are in my classes, for some of you, this is going to be a review, but for others, this might be brand new information. So if this bumps up against what you believe, what you know to be true, that irritation is an opportunity for you to see something that wants to block you from receiving truth, which is what will keep you from waking up. So let me use the board. I like to use the board because it's just a great way for me to give you visuals. So from the moment that we are all born, we come in, I like to use my little magnet people. We are bringers of the light. The truth of who we are is nothing but light. We come in with an opportunity to experience truly heaven on earth. We come into the planet to bring love and light. That is why every single little child is a joyful being. This is why they emanate so much love. They're easy to be around. They're not judging us. They're not angry at us. They're not jealous of us. They're easy to be with because they're not trying to get something from us. But we, the adults, oftentimes we want to hold the baby because we're trying to get some of that good juju because we've disconnected from our own source. So projection is something that is so important to understand because we are projecting the world that we see. So let's look at, how does projection happen? So from the moment a little child is born, a bringer of love and light to the planet, that little child has come in to a parent who has been here on the planet for a very long time and is operating from a belief system. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to focus on how the parent got the belief system. I'm going to show you how the child gets the belief system that then later on becomes a parent, becomes an uncle, becomes an aunt, becomes a person who teaches how to get indoctrinated in the ways of being an adult. So this child comes in to the world not defined. This baby is a bringer of love and light, here expressing itself. So what happens is this child is born into a family that has information. So this family, I'm just going to say, you know, these parents have information. This baby enters into that family and they get encircled with an idea about who they are. One of the first things that we're given is our name. So that child begins to have an identity created around them. This identity that we have is what we need to understand is our ego. Our ego is the belief system that we operate from. If I believe I'm Lina, well, I'm not going to answer to the name of Mary or Bob or Susie because I'm believing Lina is my name. Now that's a good thing because it differentiates us. So we're not all turning our heads every time somebody calls a name. That would be pretty chaotic at Starbucks. But when you're operating from just your name, that's not a big deal. But what happens when we enter into the realm of a family and they begin to give us, actually, I'm going to erase where I wrote ego. I'm going to put ego in here. When we enter into a family, they begin to give us, besides our name, they begin to tell us what our religion is or it's not. They begin to let us know, you know, what our socioeconomic system is. They begin to let us know how much money we should be making, what's the right amount of money, based on the kind of work that you're going to be doing, based, you know, if you are born into a millionaire family, you're going to be trained into becoming a millionaire. They don't train you into becoming an hourly worker. You're born into an hourly worker type of a family, blue collar, you're going to be taught in those ways. They may want something else for you. They may want more for you, but you're going to be born into the energy of that is accurate. Some people do move up, some do not. Some move down. You are told what the government is all about. The rules, the rights, the wrongs. You are taken to the doctor so that you understand who gives you your medicine. So that's where you have to go to get that. You're told about the education system. And you're also told that you need to have a partner to be happy because you see mom and dad, you know, they're married, they're living together. So you believe that this is the way things are supposed to be. And then you are also told that you follow the rules, you follow the regulations, and you get a job. And when you, put God there, interesting. You get a job. And when you get your job, then you make your money. When you get your money, you pay the government, then you have money to go to the doctor, you get your education, all of these things happen. You also know that you've got to go on vacation to get your rest because that's where you go to rest. You're also told how you're supposed to be as a man or as a woman. So you are defined based on your gender. So what projection is the information that you assimilate, that you take in about how you are supposed to be, so that then you go look for that outside of you. What happens when a little baby is trained in, by the time, you know, we're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, we begin to lose a lot of our light. And let me show you how that happens. When we're little kids, we have a wild imagination. I don't know about you, but I remember for me, and I remember my children when they were little, we were all really good at imagining we were making mud pies and we would feed ourselves because we would pretend We would be teachers for one another. So we thought that we were intelligent and sharing information with the other. We pretended we were doctors and we would heal ourselves because we were playing with that. We pretended we could fly. We didn't need to have an airplane. We didn't need to have money. We played with Monopoly money and we made it up. We always made it up. So the mind of a child, when you're operating as pure love and light, you are operating from a realm of knowing that all of this idea, all of this imagination is coming from you. It is coming out of you. That's why little kids are so happy. Why? Because their heart is open. They are extending. What begins to happen? One of the first things that happens is that when we are given our religion or lack of religion, inevitably, even if we're told, oh yes, you know, the kingdom of heaven is in you, God gets placed outside. And when God gets placed outside, we little by little begin to pray to something outside of us to give us the gift that we want for Christmas. Oh God, you know, please, Santa Claus, please, because our fun comes from the outside. Let me see, let me put that out here. So we got to go, our fun, the gifts, the good stuff that comes to us comes from the outside. So as a little child, we get trained into going outside. The way projection works is our mind is a little recorder. So a little child is recording experiences, recording what mommy and daddy said, recording, observing how mom and dad behave, because the way the parents behave, mom and mom, dad and dad, it depends on your upbringing. Maybe it's your grandparents who raise you. Maybe you're raised in an orphanage. You're observing how man, woman behave. Then you begin to create your ideas of man, woman. That begins to program you because you're recording those behaviors. You're beginning to get programmed on how to be when you grow up. Now, you're also, when you're being programmed, you are being told what is right, what is wrong, what is plus, what is minus, what is good, what is bad. So you are learning as a little child, being programmed, and you're observing if dad yells at mom, hits mom, mom yells at dad, they get divorced, they get angry. You are recording how parents behave. Then you go to school and you get an education and the teacher is giving you information. You're recording what is happening. If a teacher shames you for laughing in class, well, that hurts the heart. You begin to close off. You're recording, if I laugh, I'm going to be shamed. Let me not laugh in public. If mom or dad yells at you or grandmother yells at you because you didn't clean up your room, you record, oh, I better be neat or I'm going to get yelled at. And you don't want to get yelled at. Every single time that we experience something that doesn't allow us to be our authentic self, expressing, extending, because it comes from the heart. When we're authentic, we're expressing the love that we are. We are laughing because we just, something was funny, not because we were trying to offend somebody out there, not because we wanted to make mom feel insignificant because we came up with this brilliant idea or put somebody down. When we're little children, laughter and joy comes from the heart. When we are shamed or when we are told that we are wrong in the world of rights and wrongs, this is the world of duality because there's good and bad. When we begin to feel like we cannot be ourselves, we begin to close the heart. The recorder keeps going. When you begin to close your heart, you become denser. What density means is that instead of you expressing yourself freely, you begin to condense and pull back. So the density is the pulling back of who you really are, and you get tight and tense. And as you get tight and tense, you get dense. So we shift from being bright yellow to becoming a little denser. So I'm going to change the color to green. As you know, we're learning, we're becoming teenagers, we're figuring out, you know, the education that we need so that we can have the right, you know, the job, we follow the rules, we want to do it right. And then when we do that, we want to make the money and we indoctrinate in our children in that. So it doesn't take us long to become adults, and we shift from being this green bean, we turn into being our parents. And then what happens? We find another person who believes all of these things, and we get together and we create a family, or we create a relationship. And eventually one day we're going to have a baby and we're going to do it all over again. So what has happened to humanity is a bunch of beings of love and light who have entered the world. And let me see, Jennifer, you can ask a question. If you'll type it in, that would be helpful. Then I can go ahead and address that question from here. So, and I will have a Q&A moment later on. I just want to go ahead and express all of this first. So over thousands of years, the light beings come into the planet, we get indoctrinated with information, we're recording it, and then we go out into the world and we project it. So the world that we see today is a reflection of our projection. Because we were all taught that somebody outside of us has power, that the government has power, that the doctor is who cures us, that money is what keeps us safe. Of course, we think that all of these things are what keep us safe, that the doctor has our health, that our job is where we get our wealth, that our another partner is where we get love. So we really believe that love is outside of us, that our vacation is where we get our rest, that religion is where we go get centered. We have been conditioned to go outside of ourselves. And because we have all believed that, and this has been going on for thousands of years, you cannot wake up if you just look at what is today and try to figure out how to, that you don't like what is happening out here. The only way to really wake up is to understand that this has been happening for a very long time. And you go to the place of, in the beginning was the Word. What is the Word? God's imagination, source, creative source, whatever you want to call it. That imagination that is infinite in its potential has imagined us, you and me, into existence. When we are on the planet and we begin to create our own rules, our own laws, we begin to operate by our human side only, which means we deny our divine side. And that is evident when religion teaches us that we're not God. When religion tells us that God is out there somewhere, and it operates in plus and minus, good and bad. So when your mind is filled with the idea that you need a job and you need to be protected from the outside, well, we go create that job. We are all indoctrinated in doing that. So then we have this thing that enters the world called the coronavirus. I'm going to put the virus over there. And it begins to rock our world. It begins to create a lot of fear. Why? Because fear is what happens when we believe that we cannot have what we need. So fear is what keeps us in a state of anxiety, of a level of discontent. But fear is really nothing more, when we use it appropriately, as an indicator that there is a problem with the programming. When you're looking at the job, this virus comes in and you're now afraid that you're not making any money. When that fear arises, that fear is nothing, really, truly nothing more than an indicator that you're not operating from your heart, you're not operating from love. So it's telling you, go to your mind and find what the programming is. Well, we have a beautiful, wonderful opportunity right now. The opportunity is to see every fear that gets activated at this moment in time. The collective is going through this. So this is happening around the world. The only people that are not afraid are the ones who are awake. But those who are not awake are scared, because the things that we got programmed to believe are what allows us to live our life the right way are being shaken. And the reason they're being shaken is because we have given all of them power to take care of us. And what happens to people who are operating in those areas? Well, in the government, somebody with their egoic ideas, their programming, if they're operating as the one who thinks that they've got the power and they're giving you what you want, and you are operating as the one who needs to get it from them, and now all of a sudden you begin to become more introspective. You're coming inside to find out, why am I having these fears? Why am I so scared? When you begin to pull inside and lighten up and seek enlightenment, you begin to lighten up. Eventually, you're going to come to the place of realizing that you have a direct connection to the Creator, that you have an ability to imagine. And this entire world is in the process of what we see outside breaking down. And the reason that is happening, as hard to believe as it is, the reason that it is happening is because it is God's law that every single one of us be happy, that every single one of us be free. And because the outer world filled with all of these egos that have become selfish and greedy and thinking about themselves, not all, but many of them, especially the ones who run the world, they have created a system that has become so difficult for us to really express ourselves without jumping through so many hoops, without needing permission, without needing to get educated with this. Especially, religion has taught us that we really are not the divine, powerful beings that we are. Because to maintain a system that requires that you give up your power, your creative imagination of how you would like for things to be, and it requires for you to follow the rules and behave as the man, the woman that follows the rules to get the jobs so that you can earn the money to pay the bills and keep the system going. Because so many of us are so tired of being on that treadmill, many of us have been waking up, especially since the 60s, the 70s. There has been an upswell of many people lightening up. And as more people on the planet lighten up, and we've got all these people out here still dark, the more people that become lighter, and so many bright young children coming in who are not willing to fit into the system, they're bucking the system. As the planet is getting lighter, we are beginning to see the division between dark and light. We're beginning to see the greed, and we're beginning to see those who have grace. The coronavirus is helping basically part the seas. So we can see where the greed exists, where there's a need to control others, and then where there is compassion. Are you seeing out there in the world the glaring difference between people helping each other and people trying to suppress and control each other? We are seeing that. God's law created all of us free. And those that do not uphold God's laws are going to find themselves being little by little by little losing their power, because those of us who are waking up and more of the younger, brighter kids who are coming into the planet are bringing a lot of light. And as that light begins to shine and demand to have its voice heard, beginning to say, no, I am not going to believe that God is outside of me. I am going to not attend religious institutions. So what is happening to religion? If you follow some of the reports, like the Pew Report, steadily the attendance, the memberships to religious institutions has been going down, because a lot of younger people, or many of us older people, are mature people. We are not buying into that God is outside of us. So that institution is little by little breaking down. When we begin to discover that you don't need to pay a ton of money to go out on a vacation to get your rest, because you are home now and you're discovering that rest is inside of you, you are not going to have your mind programmed into believing that your rest comes from outside of you, projecting a place out there for you to go get your rest. Well, these vacation places are not all going to go away, but they're not going to be the source of where we have to work really hard, bust our butts to make money, to project this place that then makes us feel better. The jobs that we have to work, jobs that we don't like because that's the way the rules have been set up. You know, today I saw something that actually made me cringe, and I admit my ego got judgmental for a second or two. And what I saw was this sweet grandmother has her first grandchild. And in all of her excitement, she posted a picture of this brand new baby. And I think that her grandson cannot be more than maybe 2 or 3 days old. And she went to the house to see the baby, and they took a picture of this precious baby. Well, this little baby was photographed with a t-shirt with an emblem of a college and a hockey stick next to it. Do you know the message that that is sending to that child? That child is being programmed with the kind of college he's supposed to go to and the kind of sport he's supposed to have before he's even a week old. His future is being programmed into him. And when I saw that, the part of me that cringed then went, oh, wow, that little one came in to teach that dense family, maybe you're not going to box me in. And maybe there's going to be a pushback there. Maybe there isn't. Maybe that soul came in to work its way into that college and be the one who changes that college later on. I really don't know. I don't know what anything is for. So my ego was judging something that I really don't know. But what it did is it showed me that unconscious parents, we try to plan our children's future before our children get a chance to even know what they want. So that child is going to be projecting, chasing a college path to move them into that school. Do you know what's going to happen along the way if that is what the parents want that child to do? That child's decisions, choices, what they might want to do is going to bump up against them. That child is going to have the pressure of getting the grades that are necessary. That was an Ivy League school to be able to get into that school. There's all kinds of things that have already been put on the path of that being without that being having a choice while it's here. Now, of course, it can choose to push against it, and it can choose, maybe the parents will listen, but that's how programming gets started. And when your mind gets programmed, you're going to project that as what you're going to be chasing. Well, many of us are seeing that the government is something we really can't count on. So this government as a source of safety is beginning to break down. That instills a lot of fear. But when you begin to realize that your power doesn't come from the outside, but that rather your power is inside and you give it to something external, you begin to reclaim more of the truth of who you are. As we stop looking for love outside of ourselves and don't expect a man or a woman to fulfill us and give us our wholeness because they complete us. When we are totally complete, we will be the ones who begin to come out. So what is happening is that as we break down these rights and wrongs, we begin to discover a power inside of us. When we stop believing that we have to go to the doctor to get our health, and we begin to open up the door to our communication with the Creator, we begin, at first it gives us fear that something can make us sick, but when you can understand that the healing powers inside of you, that fear begins to go away. When you stop thinking that money is the source of your safety, that fear that you're not going to make it is going to go away. How many people now are helping each other? If we trusted one another, we would realize that nobody would ever go hungry if we open up our heart and we share. So as we stop believing that safety is outside of us, those fears begin to go away. That ego mind begins to change. What happens to these people is that they become lighter. They become more aware that instead of operating just from what's in their head, they begin to open up their hearts. And then what is going to happen, where the future is headed, is that these dense people are going to shift and get lighter. As we begin to believe in ourselves again, as we begin to come inside and realize that who we are is a divine child of God, one of the first things that we need to do is begin the process of recognizing that we are good people. Begin to remember that we are loving people. begin to recognize that kindness and compassion are natural attributes, that we selectively only were that way with others because we watched our parents be selectively kind and compassionate with some people. I know there were many times my children watched me talk badly about a neighbor. They listened to me and watched me in my behavior if I was being a bully with somebody. They also watched me being a victim to somebody, feeling bad because somebody didn't invite me to something and I felt like I was diminished. I programmed my children with behaviors that seemed to be acceptable, that then they had the opportunity to have that programmed into their mind. That recorder was always working. They project the world of people who will give them those opportunities to believe, oh yeah, that's how I should behave. They yelled at me, I should feel bad about myself. I should be a victim. Or they yelled at me, I should be a bully like my mom was to those people. So what is happening is that we are little by little breaking down the things that have power outside of us if we're willing to face our fears. Because the things that irritate us, those irritations are invitations to come and see, how did I shut my heart down? You find out how you stop being loving, compassionate, kind by looking at the programming. So the fear is giving you an opportunity to see what's inside. Then you got to come inside and do the work. Not just become spiritual, but to literally stop believing that there's anything outside of you and begin to undo the ego thinking system that says that you go out there and you learn how to be spiritual, but that's something you do inside. What is happening is we are unleashing the spirit that we are. Awakening is the allowing of the spirit to come forth. When we do that, we come out of our little circle and we enter the realms of medicine. We enter the realms of government. We express ourselves as a loving, kind, compassionate beings in corporations, in local businesses, as a mom, as a dad, as a single parent, as a sweeper of the streets, as a homeless parent. I've met some really kind homeless people. I mean, amazing. So the opportunity to open up our heart comes from looking at our projections. We projected a boss outside of us for us to be okay. We projected that the government was going to keep us safe. We projected that I needed a lot of money to not only that my net worth needed to be a lot, but it's what gave me my self-worth. So we're facing the fear of losing those things. Thank you, coronavirus. And beginning to come inside and find the power in us. We are shifting towards a new earth. The planet, and I'm not going to get into this because that takes a lot of time, but our planet is not alone. We are part of a system that is part of a universe that is all managed and controlled by God's laws. And we have been conditioned to focus only on what we're doing so that we would become good little producers for the system that in essence has enslaved us into being productive members that go out there and make a lot of money, and then we spend all that money and give it right back to them. I don't know about you, but most of us, that's what our money does. We receive it and then we send it right back out in mortgages, in rents, in food, and entertainment. We've had to go out there. We give everything that we work for the most part, and send it out there. And then we get scared when it's not coming in, because then we think we can't have happiness and peace and joy and food or shelter, because we have forgotten to be compassionate, and we don't trust that other people are going to be nice to us, because we have projected a world of selfish people because we've been conditioned in that. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir. Most of you who are here are kind, compassionate people, but the world at large is breaking down the illusion of separation, the illusion that our power exists outside of us. And it's very scary to move into the process of awakening, because awakening is a very destructive process. It is a process of dismantling the programming. And if you believe that you need to have a job to be productive and your job goes away, the first thing that happens in your mind is the fear that you're a failure, the fear that you haven't lived up to what your mom and your dad taught you. And that fear of failing has been taught to us by a system of rights and wrongs that did not give permission for mistakes to be opportunities for learning. We have been taught that mistakes means you failed, you're not good enough. So we have to visit every single thing we've been programmed with, because the programming controls if we let ourselves open our heart or not. Now, next week on Tuesday, the 31st at 9 o'clock, I'm going to focus on practicing presence. Presence is activating the spirit in us, activating the soul in us to be present, to allow us to do the work of dismantling the egoic thought system in a way that is loving, in a way that is gentle, because there is a part inside of us, the spirit, the soul in us, that is awakening. And it's awakening to help us look at the ego mind that is dissolving. So as our spirit strengthens, our ego lessens. So that process happens in tandem. So I'll focus on just presence next week. The following Friday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to talk about God's laws. What are God's laws? So that we can really hone in, once you practice presence, how do you operate inside of that realm? Humanity is growing up. We are maturing. We are like the stages of a child, teenager, and adult. Humanity has been operating at the middle school, ridiculous bullies and victims on the playground, and we are maturing into a more adult-like, mature-like behavior. Not the human adult, but a spiritual adult, a mature, awakened adult that is going to create a new earth with compassionate companies, compassionate government, where transparency is going to be the norm, because everybody will understand that under God's laws, we are all one. So we're moving in that direction, but to move in that direction, we have to go through the destruction of the old. So let me open this up. If you have a comment or a question, if you will raise your hand, if you can do that, or send me a note. And Jennifer, you wanted to say something earlier. If you will unmute yourself and go ahead and pose your question now. Let's see if I find.
Don't you want me to unmute to ask it, or do you want me to write it?
No, go ahead and now say it to me now.
Well, it was something you said at the beginning about learning to love everybody else. That's how you become spiritual, I think you said. And I'm reading a book, or doing it's called Inner Bonding by Margaret Paul. It's similar to some of the things you're saying now. And that's what she says too, is you have to learn to love others. That's what it's all about. But how do you get there if you don't love yourself?
Yes, that's how
you gotta love yourself first.
Yes, that's a wonderful question. And that is one of the things that I love about the teachings of A Course in Miracles, because it shows us clearly how we disconnected from the loving part of ourselves, and we became fearful people. So it is, what you're learning is true. Until we love everybody, we are not going to be free. We're not going to be happy. We're not going to create a new earth. But you can't learn to love others until you first learn to love yourself. And the way you learn to love yourself is to face your fears. You have got to see what is that. That irritation is an invitation that leads you directly to a thought in your mind that has you think one of these things. I'm not good enough. I'm not likable enough. I'm not lovable enough. I'm not smart enough. It has something to do with the I am not enough, fill in the blank. That got learned in childhood. It doesn't have to come because you had bad parents. It could have been very well-meaning parents that went off on a date and left you home alone, and you didn't want to be home alone. That felt like I don't matter. When you begin to believe I don't matter, and you begin to think that there's something wrong with you, you little by little begin to mistrust people. And we learn to mistrust people because, after all, mom and dad, the people that I loved the most, that I was totally open with, they went out on a date, or they got divorced, or they remarried and chose a partner over me. that little child's mind that is not trained from the get-go to remember that inside of it is everything it's looking for. If your parents are not conscious parents that tell you, listen, mom and dad's behavior are not a reflection of who you are, of the love that you are. You need to learn to know that you're okay no matter what mommy and daddy do. And then we learn that from teachers who get angry with us. And then we think, I was a bad girl because the teacher yelled at me or the teacher was mad at me. So our mind is programmed with so many beliefs and ideas and evidence, because we can go right back to those moments in time when we do healing work. Not only can we regress to a time in this lifetime, but we can regress to past lives when terrible things happened. We create an idea that who I am is not safe in the world. When you don't feel safe in the world, you begin to shut your heart, because innately we really know that the love that we have is the most precious of all jewels. And we begin to pull back because we begin to manipulate others. Well, I'm not going to give you what I got. I'm not going to give you my love. Well, our love is tied to everything that the Creator gave us. Our love comes from the same oneness that is the source of all creativity, and it's the source of our power. So when we pull back our love from others, I won't show you who I am, I'm not going to be my authentic true self, we can't access our creativity, we can't access our oneness. All of those things that are inherently true, is like they're lying dormant inside, because the mind is operating from a memory. So I'm not going to love you because chances are you're going to leave me. And you're going to leave me because mom and dad left me, or boyfriend left me, or, you know, grandmother died and she's my favorite person in the world. And when she died, I felt abandoned. Whatever the memory leads you to, you have that as evidence that gives you permission to lock down. So how are you going to love that person if you don't love yourself? You have to begin to use that irritation as an invitation. And obviously we can't really get into this, but next week when we talk about being present, and again, all of these are going to be recorded. So if you can't be there at 12 o'clock, no, it's 9 o'clock on Tuesday, you can go back and watch it on my YouTube channel. But we have got to become the one who realizes that if you really want to feel connection with others, you've got to be willing to sit in the discomfort that has you be in protection. So you got to look at, why is it that I'm not sharing my love? And it's going to take you to a point in childhood, or again, before that, into a past life, where you thought protecting yourself meant withholding your love. We cannot give our love until we feel safe. And we cannot feel safe in here because we've been taught, our mind is programmed, that safety comes from out there. Safety comes from money, from job, from partner, from something outside of us. So we typically cannot heal our relationship with others because we've been programmed, you should make me safe. And because I don't feel safe around you, I'm not going to open up my heart. So do you see, Jennifer, that there's so many layers? There's just so much to this that has to be excavated, but it all comes back to, we shut down our ability to connect because we learn to protect. And in that learning to protect, we disconnect with our ability to really objectively see what we have done. Protection makes us stupid. It just totally disconnects us from our intelligence. It makes us primal. It takes us into that reptilian brain where it's strictly fight or flight. We are the least intelligent, creative beings when we are being inauthentic, because we don't know how to access.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work on myself lately, and that's the point I'm at now, is understanding that when I feel off or insecure, or when I feel myself judging somebody else, I have to look within and see what that's about. And that's the healing process to get me to love myself. So that's what I'm doing right now. I was just concerned about the thought that it's about loving others, because I feel like I don't know how that can come first. So it's good to hear that that's true. It can't come first. You have to love yourself first, and then that'll happen.
Yes, but the other will be a doorway. So give me an example of something that scares you about people, that keeps you disconnected from loving them, that you're afraid that they would do what to you?
Judge me.
Okay, so that's an opportunity for you to see, I am afraid they judging me would reveal something. So what is it that if they judged you, you would be afraid they would see?
I guess I'd be afraid that the things I don't like about myself, it would be evidence that my thoughts are true. If they believed it, then it must be true. This is true about me and I don't like it.
Okay.
So why go there? Yeah.
So you don't want it to be projected back to you,
Yeah.
that you are right. So that's
Yes.
one of the tricks our ego does. I'm not going to show you the ugly part of me that I'm believing, because I don't want you to then be the evidence that is true.
Yeah.
Because what would happen if you let somebody close? In reality, they would tell you what they love about you, but you will, in our behaviors, in our commitment to being right about all the things that we think bad about us, we literally behave badly so that they can then say, yes, that's true about you. But when people fall in love with us, when people want to connect with us, they're attracted to our light, but then our ego begins to activate all of the self-protection that doesn't let them see the truth of who we are. We self-sabotage every relationship we cannot get close to, because we're trusting what's in our head. Do you mind? Do you want to have a moment of a potential big moment for you to have a breakthrough here?
Sure.
Tell me what's one thing you don't want somebody to see about you that you think is true, that you would consider not a good quality.
That I'm not pretty enough.
Okay. So if who told you that you were not pretty enough?
Nobody told me to my face that I'm not pretty enough, but my mom places a lot of importance on looks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I realized that she commented a lot on other people. Oh, she's pretty, she's pretty, she's pretty, but she never said, I'm pretty. So I think I learned that, well, it must be important for me to look like that person and that person and that person.
So your mom, basically this beautiful bright light that you were, encircled you with an idea of what pretty looks like. And this person was pretty, that person was pretty, this one was pretty. And when you didn't feel pretty, you started getting a little dense, getting a little insecure, and you began to disconnect from your truth. And then eventually you got so dense in your story that you stopped loving yourself, of course. So the only way that you are going to be able to get past that is to begin to deliberately accept who you are as you are, because it is how the Creator created you. And the Creator, the creative source of all that is, when it is one source, is what you are. So I'm going to invite you to consider that you wanted to look exactly as you look, and have the mother that played the role exactly as she played it, to give you the opportunity for you to decide, am I going to love myself enough as I look? Because when I begin to look at myself and accept myself as I am, you actually will be the prettiest you'll ever be, because in that moment, you will move out of the superficial and you will come inside and activate the most beautiful part of you. And the most beautiful part of you is a heart that wants to express itself. And love gets expressed through a tree, it gets expressed through a bird, it gets expressed through a rock. So there is no one thing that is the standard for pretty. But outside of us, we have a world of magazines that have created this false narrative of what pretty looks. Why? Because if we see in the magazine what pretty looks like, then we're going to go out and buy the products. So we're going to have to be busy making more money to have the money to go buy the products. And we stay in this cycle, this incredible hamster wheel, going out there, finding the money, and then we're just transferring the money between what's outside, getting the chemical peels, getting the this, the that, coloring our hair, doing our nails. And right now, while we're quarantined, you know how many women's manicures look like shit? A bunch, because they can't go get their nails done. So I've got a bunch of friends who are saying, oh, now I got to go to the box hair color because I can't go get my hair. So we're beginning to see the things that are so superficial now. The opportunity for you, Jen, is if you want to be beautiful, you've got to allow your heart to love you exactly as you are, because your beauty is needed for the beauty that is needed on the planet right now is people who are comfortable being who they are as the Creator created us. Because, and this is not an easy thing to understand, it's not a comfortable thing to believe, but we have the physical expression that we have because it's the one that we wanted. We are powerful, creative beings who could be anything. You could have been a dog. You could have been a river. You could have been a tree. You chose to be you. And you falling in love with you is how your beauty will shine.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And I don't have a time limit today, a strict one, because I don't have to be with a client until 2 o'clock. So I could definitely keep going. But if somebody has a question, let's bring up another question. And then I definitely want to bring us into prayer. I'm so glad that, let's see, I guess, Jody, you too, similar question. Maria, love that. Thank you for that. Sharon, you've got your hand up. You want to, let's unmute you. Sharon. Anybody else? Sharon, if you can't unmute yourself. All right, somebody else, tell me. I want to get some feedback. What did you think of this conversation? Did this make sense? Please unmute yourself and share if this made sense to you. See, I know Daisy's there, Angela Lee is there. Who unmuted?
I did. It's David.
David.
Hi, Lana.
Hello. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, this conversation was just a really good follow-up to our conversation from Monday night.
Oh, from our Monday night class. Yes. Yes. We get conditioned to believe things that make us protect ourselves. We can't, it's a lot of work as a little child to take on the pressures that mom and dad have. We're observing them. We're recording how hard it is to be an adult. And then we're being trained on how to be an adult and do it right. And we lose connection with our innocence, our heart, our childlike sense of wonder, our joy, our creativity begins to shut down. And that is exactly what this virus is giving us an opportunity to begin to find out, what do I want to do?
What do I want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, who do I want to be now? And it's that's going to activate the energy that is loving and joyful, to feel beautiful, to heal, to be healthy, to come up with creative ideas that allows us to be kind and compassionate and sharing. There is a whole industry that is going to be birthed from what's happening right now,
yes,
where money, instead of trickling from the bottom down, we are going to see that we are going to be exchanging. We're going to go back to a lot more of the trading, where we're always going to have enough, because our talents and our gifts are going to be a great source of where we generate what we need, because it's going to be done lovingly. We are headed for good times. Thank you so much, David.
You're welcome. And as a follow-up from Monday, those who weren't on the call on Monday night, I went through what Jennifer just went through, but mine was about running out of money. And I have a contract to sell my house through Zillow. And on Tuesday, I found out from Zillow that they were going to cancel the contract. However, in order to cancel the contract, they offered me $5,000 to cancel the contract. So now I don't have a contract on my house, but I've got $5,000 that I didn't have on Monday.
That's amazing. Amazing. I love that. And the Monday night he's speaking of is a 1 year long mastery class that I teach. So thank you, David, for sharing that. I love that. And Doris, you wanted to share something.
I did. I loved everything that you said today. But one of my favorite things you said today was what you said at the beginning. And I think it's good to remind everybody that your definition of waking up, which is taking 100% responsibility for what you're thinking. Yeah. And I just thought, that just struck me today as something really important to keep in your mind.
Yes, because if you are reacting, you're not taking responsibility for your thoughts. The reaction does not allow for a response. When we respond and we have made the decision that our thinking is about being happy, aligning with the laws of God, accepting the goodness of who we are, and really tapping into this creative source that is constantly pouring new ideas through us. When we align with wanting to be what makes us the happiest, the most joyful, when we align with that, our thinking is very clear, very pure, very, very certain. And when we have that certainty, our heart is open because we're not looking to get anything. We are looking to give. That is one of the things that when you're awake, not only your thoughts in alignment with God's thinking, but your heart has opened up because you are giving. Coronavirus is showing us the things that we're afraid we're not going to get. We're not going to get our medicine. We're not going to get our pizza. We're not going to get our money. We're not going to get it. When you're looking for the outside to give to you, you don't know who you are. You don't know the powerful being that you are, that David in that process of softening, of aligning, of in that moment, talking about desiring abundance. And he went to the place where he activated with his inner child, and we all got to witness activating that energy of his inner child. When your inner child is no longer confined, guess what happens? You must draw to you what you desire, because we are going to be projecting the world we see. We have been projecting a world of pain and suffering because we got taught that the world is hard and you got to work hard and you got to pound the pavement and it's difficult and there's not enough and you got to get yours before somebody else gets it. You get it, you got to protect it. Because we've been trained into believing that's true, our recorder projects out there the movie that we're experiencing. That's why everybody has a different perspective of the movie, because we have different information in our mind, but we're sharing the canvas that we're projecting on. When you clean up your thinking and you begin the process of awakening to the truth of who you are, you begin to be the one that radiates out and you begin to give from you. You extend creativity. You don't have fear because you recognize how powerful you are. And one who is awake is in alignment with that you are as God created you. The Course in Miracles is really clear. We are as God created us. We are not these bodies. And to disidentify with the body as who I am, as my looks defining me, as my intelligence being who I am and how I am perceived in the world, and we begin to open up our heart and let that inform us, let that be the thing that powers us. We're going to create a world. A new earth is coming, but it's going to come from those of us who stop being dense and lighten up. That's why they call it enlightenment, until the point that we are the light of the world, that we recognize that who we are, not only is it beautiful, but it is the most divine divine being on this planet. And when we can see everybody as that beautiful divine being for what they contribute, whatever comes out of their mouth in poetry, in song, in whatever it is that they do, ideas, inventions, we will create what the Course in Miracles calls a happy dream. We all have the ability to, while we believe that we are separate beings, create a place that is happy and joyful for everybody. So awakening requires that you really look at what you think, because what you think determines if you close your heart or you open it. So the thinking powers the gate to the heart. And that is beautiful. I'm glad you got that, Doris. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, simple little thing, but not easy to do. Yes, you're welcome, Jen. Anybody else? Do you have anything else to share? And then I'm going to take us into a prayer. So if you want to speak, unmute yourself, please. Yes.
Hey,
May I
Lina.
speak?
Oh, Dale, let me let Angela go first, and then we'll come to you, Dale. And then I'll do my prayer after Dale. Go ahead, Angela.
Well, I'm just grateful you're doing these classes, because I'm up in the mountains and in a pretty remote area. But it's just given, the quarantine has given me time to just sit, and I appreciate just the stillness and the birds that I can hear outside the door. And but I'm up here without, A Course in Miracles, although I can pull it up online. But it's just really great to be in your class again and to kind of get centered, and how lucky I am. So very, very lucky to just have the family I have, and to kind of just sit back and watch things flow, and just see how they're flowing, and just to be present and aware, and to watch it, and to I have some moments where you kind of go, oh my God, I'm out of work. But at the same time, somehow it's all going to work out, and God's got this, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to see you. Yes. Miss you in the regular classes. So it's good to have you here. One of the things about isolating is really an opportunity to get quiet and go inside, and not only to go inside and reconnect with ourselves, but remember that we're one community. Because what has happened to all of us is we've been indoctrinated into believing that we're like islands unto ourselves. And we're not islands unto ourselves. We are all one part of the humanity. And we're learning how to be kinder and gentler. And to do that, we've got to break down these barriers about distinctions by gender, by sexuality, by religion, by culture, by status, financial status. So all of those things are going to begin to break down, but they're not going to break down without those who are invested in holding on to them because they want to be right about them, going through a pretty rough period. And next class on Tuesday, being presence and practicing standing as a presence is going to be necessary, because people are going to need, who are breaking down their ideas of rights and wrongs, are going to need our love, our compassion, and our forgiveness, because it's not going to help anybody for us to make those who were dense wrong. They didn't know what they were doing. They got indoctrinated just as we did. So thank you for being here, Angela. Appreciate your comments.
Well, thank you.
Yes. All right, Mr. Dale, let's share your thoughts, and then I'm going to do a prayer for us.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me know that I'm enough just the way I am, and that the only gift that I have to give someone is my truth. It is okay for me to love me, and
I'm losing you there a little bit, so repeat what you just said, please. Dale, I think I lost you. So what I heard you say, Dale, is that you were sharing that the only way for you to be authentic is to love yourself. And
yes, and I just thank you so much for allowing me to know that I am enough in spite of everything that I was taught, everything that I have done. I am still perfect, whole, and complete in my present moment. And that when I give to the universe, and you talked about us being we are part of this earth, is part of a system, that we are part of a system.
yeah.
That
Oh, I'm losing you again. I'm losing you again, Dale. So let me speak for you because the internet connection's a little bit rough. Yes, we are part of a system, and what we're learning through this mandated isolation is to go inside so that we can practice connection, which is, it's a paradox. But as we begin to realize that we are all one, and we begin to remove the boundaries that we have built around ourselves, and we begin to operate in cooperation, it's going to require that we become transparent. We have to share our fears. We have to open up about what we believe is right and wrong. We're going to have to face our judgments, our prejudices, the ways that we have been indoctrinated into justifying things like racism, like bigotry, like homophobia. We have to look at how we have all been indoctrinated into what's right and what's wrong, and we all defend what's right because nobody wants to be wrong. Again, we were not taught that being wrong was it's just an error. Let's look at things differently. So this process of breaking down the barriers only happens when you go inside of your own self-imposed egoic barrier and look at how you think that you're separate. And from that place of recognizing separation is something that is learned. And it's only maintained through the process of projecting what we are believing. And if you don't believe that you are separate and those people are good or bad, when we drop the good or bad, the separation is not something that you need to protect yourself from. If you're not protecting, you are in connection. Then we will walk about this planet freely, helping one another, not creating laws and regulations that make it difficult for one group to operate in this world because somebody thought that they were wrong. But that requires that you come inside and discover that we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all infinitely loved by a source that we are one with, and we are creative, powerful beings. How about we let everybody express themselves however they want to, because somebody who has come into the heart will never do anything that hurts anybody because they love themselves too much to hurt themselves. And when we are hating on somebody, it's because we don't love ourselves enough, and we hurt ourselves with hate. Hate does not feel good except to a mind that's protecting itself because it justifies the barrier. But when the heart is loving, you never hate because that is dense energy that feels not good and it makes us sick. So thank you for your comments, Dale. So let's all come into a moment of prayer. Let's activate a miracle right now. And I am going to speak some truths, and I want you to receive as much of this as you want to, and whatever doesn't resonate, whatever doesn't feel right, let it go. But I want to invite you to receive the nuggets of truth that will allow your heart to soften so that you can begin to love yourself, and by activating a desire to free yourself. That's the fastest way you will love yourself, is when you want to free yourself from the confinement of rights and wrongs that are in your head, and they were all learned. None of us came in with rights and wrongs. We came in to be bringers of love and light to the planet, and we learned to pull it back as a form of self-protection because we were all raised by people who were at some level a little cray-cray. So let's go ahead and go into this prayer. So creative source of all that is, we come together, this group, so beautiful, so many beings that are pouring their energy into this moment of activating a miracle, of allowing ourselves to remember the truth of who we are, because a miracle is nothing more than a shift in perception. When we shift our mind from believing that we're separate and isolated and apart from one another, and we shift our perception to the truth of who we are, that we are one energy expressing itself individually, because the creative source of all that is has created all that is for us to experience it. And when we give ourselves permission to bring down the walls of self-protection, and these walls are created with our fears, with our thoughts of limitation, of what would people think? I must not be good enough. I don't want them to think I am less than. I don't want them to think that I'm not capable, that I'm not beautiful, that I am not smart. When we entertain thoughts that who we are is not okay, is not enough, we create the very walls that keep us from the very connection that our soul longs for. Creative Source, give us today the activation of the truth inside of us. And that truth inside of us will be activated through our willingness to grant permission to receive this as our truth. So I invite everybody to go inside of you and feel within you, somewhere in you, there is the essence of who you are, the authentic you that really wants to be expressed, the part of you that knows that you matter, that you're important, that who you are is essential right now to the shift that is happening on this planet. Let yourself tap into the place where you know you have something to contribute. And from that place, give gratitude that you can feel that excitement, that hope, that joy, even if you don't know how to express it. What's important is that you acknowledge that it is in you. And I invite you to really receive these words. The expression of my authenticity is within my power. If I am willing to question the thoughts in my mind, if I am willing to be okay with maybe some of the thoughts that I believe are possibly not accurate, not true, if I can sit with the possibility that I have been mistaken about reality, if I can sit with the possibility that I have been thinking less of me than what is really true according to the Creator, if I can accept that the creative power is inside of me, if I can accept these things to be my new reality, I can little by little begin to heal the places in me that have misperceptions. And as I shift my perceptions from what would people think, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, if I am willing to consider that those things are not true, they're not accurate, and shift my perception to receiving that I am not only enough, but magnificent, that the creative source in whose image I am made is actually the presence of love and joy and light, and allow myself to question the thoughts that made God a scary God, that made source something outside of me. If I can allow the possibility that those thoughts are not true, then what could the truth be? And if we give ourselves permission to acknowledge that the world that we see is a projection of the thoughts that we have been believing, so that we can begin to accept how powerful we are. And if you want to see a happier world, if you want to experience a world of more kindness and compassion, you have to be willing to accept that not only is there a source of compassion and kindness, and recognize that it is in you, then you must be willing to change your mind about who you are and begin to extend compassion first to yourself and then to others. And the thing that you're most afraid of is the thing that you must do so you can prove to yourself that it is not true. If you think you're not beautiful, you've got to begin to tell yourself, you know what? Yes, I am. I don't need to look like the girl in the magazine or the guy in the magazine. I am beginning to accept myself for who I am. Begin to search people who think that they are beautiful, that maybe they have been burned, they have been born deformed, or maybe became deformed through surgeries or other circumstances. Begin to activate yourself, connecting with the resonance of those who believe the thing that you want to believe is true for you, and stay away from the things that have been reinforcing and giving you evidence of the beliefs that you held that had you captive inside of a small idea of who you are. So today I acknowledge for every single one of us the power within us to shift our thoughts, the power within us to open our heart. But what I cannot do for you, that only you can do for yourself, is value yourself enough to receive the freedom that comes when you align with your authentic self. That you have to do yourself because you have free will. But until you free yourself from wrong thinking, you will not be free. And your free will be used to protect you and keep you in bondage. But you, as my loving brother, my loving sister, my adored brother and sister, are free to think whatever you think. I will love you no matter what. But when you suffer in your misery, just know that I am only focusing on your power to choose that. Because I love you enough to know how powerful you are. So I call for each and every one of us to take a minute of silence and pray into this circle that we have created. Speak into this circle, not necessarily with words out loud, but inside of your own heart, the truth that you want to project for yourself and for the world. So I thank you for being part of this, and I'm going to unmute everybody in a minute, and I want you to speak out loud one thing you want to see for yourself or you want to see in the world, so that we can begin to add energy to the world that we want to project as our new reality. But before that, I want to invite you to come back next Tuesday at 9 o'clock, where we're going to talk about practicing presence. Friday the 3rd, at April the 3rd at 12 o'clock, we're going to talk about what the laws of gods are all about. And I want to invite you, if you're not already a member of, not a member, but if you haven't been to my website, to sign up to receive a free e-course called The Soul's Journey, so that you can see more clearly how we got indoctrinated, how we lost our connection to our authenticity, and the steps that we must take to undo that. The Soul's Journey takes you through the stages, the phases from conception to enlightenment. When you sign up for the Soul's Journey, you automatically will be in my newsletter. And then I want to plant the seed that I've got a workshop, a virtual workshop I'm creating coming up on April the 11th. I'm calling it a Shift and Lift workshop, where we will actually do processes. I'm going to make it super affordable, because obviously I know we're all needing to get as much help as possible, but I too create my income through this, and I'm giving as much free, and I am going to also offer something so that those who want to participate can contribute. And that will be on April the 11th. It'll be virtual, and I'm going to create a Facebook group for that, so we can have a lot of connection for at least a week. We can communicate, and I can assist you, even though the workshop will only be for about 4 hours in and of itself, but it'll be recorded and it'll remain in that group that participates. So now let me unmute everybody. And I want to ask you to speak into this space. What is it that you want to see projected out into the world? And for me, what I want to see projected out into the world are people who are courageous enough to become authentic. So you guys go ahead and speak.
Compassion.
Compassion, yes.
Responsibility.
Joy, yes. A world of joy.
Brave love.
Yes, brave love. Is that what you said? Brave love?
Brave love, yes.
Yes, we have to be brave. We have to be brave to learn to love.
Brave.
Kindness.
Kindness, yes. And all of these things, we're going to see them projected out there if we do them in here with ourselves first. Yes. Who else? What else?
Open.
Yes. What else do you want to see in the world?
Creativity.
Creativity, yes. For people to connect with their creativity and accept who they are.
Fulfillment.
Forgiveness and fulfillment, totally, completely. Yes.
Non-judgment.
Non-judgment. How about we project a world where people know that they're powerful enough to heal themselves. They're powerful enough to not accept illness if we so choose to.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. I am so grateful. If you want to watch this again or share it with friends, I will put it not only on my Facebook page, but it'll also be on my YouTube channel. It probably won't get put up there till later on today, but it will be there by the end of the day. Thank you all so much. Thank you for creating this beautiful environment, and let's take this out into the world and be the change we want to see out there.
Thank
you. Thank
Love you all.
Thanks, Lena.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you.